Hello, everyone, and good morning. Wishing you a warm, peaceful day. Pour yourself a cup of tea and settle in, because today's story is one close to the heart. Some men say, "I love you," with big words and grand gestures, but the ones who truly mean it, they say it quietly, with a booking made weeks in advance, a red dress chosen without being asked, and an afternoon that reminds you you were never meant to be forgotten. The Lunar New Year was winding down. The peach blossoms were still standing in their vase by the window, a little past their peak now, petals softening at the edges. But the house had gone quiet again. The relatives had gone home. The red envelopes had been given out. The noise and warmth of the holiday had settled into something gentler, like the last ember in a détour, fire that had burned beautifully all week. Tien was up before the sun. Same as always. She didn't need an alarm clock, never had. After so many decades of early mornings, tending the garden, starting the fire, making sure everyone else had what they needed before the day began. Her body had simply learned to wake itself. She pulled on her house clothes, slipped outside, and walked the rows of her vegetable garden in the gray morning light, checking what needed picking, what needed water, what the overnight rain had done to the soil. The kohlrabi was coming in well. She broke off a few heads, tucked them under her arm, and went back to the kitchen. She decided on braised pork ribs with kohlrabi for dinner. Nothing fancy. But Jack liked it. He wasn't a man who made demands about food. He ate what was put in front of him and was grateful for it. But she had noticed over the years that he always reached for a second bowl when the vegetables came straight from their garden. There was a difference in the taste, and they both knew it. No pesticides, no middleman, just good soil and patience. She was nearly finished when she heard him from the other room. "Tien, do you need any help?" She smiled to herself over the pot. He always asked. That was the thing about Jack. He wasn't a man who cooked, they both knew that too. But he was a man who asked, who checked in, who appeared in the kitchen doorway just to see how things were going, and then quietly set a glass of warm water beside her without being asked. "I'm almost done," she called out. "You finish your work first?" He came to the doorway anyway, leaning against the frame, just watching her move around the kitchen, not interrupting, not offering opinions. Just there. "You forgot to eat again," she said. "I got too focused," he admitted. Didn't notice the time. She shook her head gently but didn't press it. That was Jack. When he was working, the world outside his screen simply stopped existing. She had learned not to take it personally. Dinner that evening was the three of them, Jack, Tien, and Xian, sitting together while the rain came in outside. It had started sometime in the afternoon. That soft, early spring drizzle that coats everything in silver and makes the house feel smaller and warmer from the inside. The sound of it on the roof was a comfortable sound. Tien had always liked rain during meals. "The kohlrabi in the garden is really something this year," Xian said, helping himself to more. "You can taste the difference." Jack nodded, eating steadily, but Tien caught his eyes moving to her every so often, not in a way that needed explaining, just a habit of attention she had grown used to. He was somewhere inside his own thoughts, turning something over. She had learned to recognize that too. He was planning something when the bowls were nearly empty and Tien stood to begin clearing the table. Jack spoke. Tien, after you're done, go change into something nice. I'm taking you somewhere." She stopped, looked at him. "Where? It's raining. Jack." "We'll take the car," he said simply. "We're not afraid of rain." But where are we? You'll see. That was all he gave her. No hint. No clue, just that calm, settled look of a man who has already decided and is not going to be talked out of. Tien went to the bedroom. She stood in front of her closet for a long moment. Not quite sure what to reach for. She didn't have many dress-up occasions. Her life was a comfortable life, meaningful, full, rooted in things she loved. But it was not a life that called for much dressing up. Garden clothes, market clothes, the occasional good blouse for a family gathering. Then she remembered the shirt Jack had bought her last month. She had been saving it. The way women do when something feels too nice for an ordinary Tuesday. She took it down, put it on, looked in the mirror for a moment longer than usual. It had pockets. She appreciated that. When she came back out to the living room, Tien glanced up. "You look nice," he said. She waved him off the way women do when they're quietly pleased, but don't want to say so. The car moved through the rain-washed streets slowly. Everything outside the window looked freshly rinsed. The trees along the road deeply green. The gutters running clear. The roadside vendors packing up early because of the weather. Tien watched it all pass. "Are you going to tell me where we're going?" "No," Jack said, with the faintest smile. She looked at him for a moment, then back at the window. And underneath the mild frustration of not knowing, something else was there, something she didn't have a name for immediately. It was the feeling of being on the receiving end of something, of being the one someone had made plans for. Without being asked to organize those plans herself, women who spend a lifetime taking care of others often forget what that feels like. Being taken care of, not helped with a task, not assisted with something practical, but genuinely, quietly, thought of in advance. It was a small feeling, but it sat warmly in her chest. The car stopped. Jack came around and opened her door. And she stepped out and looked up at the soft-lit sign of a photography studio. She stood there for just a moment. And then she understood. Tien had never had her photograph taken this way before. She had seen the results of it. Of course, on neighbors' walls, hanging in heavy frames above the sofa, on the phones of younger relatives who couldn't stop showing her photos from their children's graduation shoots, their nieces' wedding portraits, their grandchildren all lined up in matching outfits with coordinated smiles, beautiful, polished images that looked like they belonged in a magazine. But those were for other people. Younger people. People with occasions grand enough to merit that kind of fuss. She was a woman who grew vegetables and fed whoever walked through her door. That was a good life, a full life. She was not complaining about it, but it was not the kind of life that puts you in a silk dress under studio lights, or so she had always assumed. Inside the studio, a kind young woman offered them water and slippers and led them upstairs to the costume room. And Tien walked in and stopped walking. Áo dai hung from every rack. The traditional Vietnamese dress, the kind she had seen in old photographs and televised New Year's programs all her life. Deep red, soft violet, jade green, golden yellow, fabric that moved like water. She stood among them, the way you stand in a garden you've only ever looked at through a fence, suddenly finding yourself on the inside. "Try the red one," Jack said, pointing without hesitation. "Since when do you know about dresses?" she asked. "I don't," he said. "But the red one is right." She took it down from the hanger. The silk was cool between her fingers. Fingers roughened from years of garden work, from washing and kneading and scrubbing, from the honest labor of a life lived with her hands. She slipped behind the screen, put the dress on, and stepped out to the full-length mirror. She went very still, The woman looking back at her was familiar and not familiar at the same time. Same face she had always had. Same posture. Same eyes, but standing upright in that red silk, with the soft fabric falling straight to the floor. She looked like someone who belonged in a photograph. Someone worth capturing. She hadn't thought of herself that way in a long time. Jack stood behind her, reflected in the mirror. He didn't say a word, but the small, quiet change in his expression, the way it settled, the way his shoulders dropped slightly, told her everything she needed to know about what he saw in the makeup room. A young woman sat Tien down with the focused, gentle attention of someone who truly loves their work. She looked at Tien's face the way a skilled seamstress looks at good fabric, reading what's already there, deciding what to bring out. "Your skin is lovely," she said, and it didn't sound like flattery. It sounded like a professional assessment. Tien sat very still while the brushes moved lightly across her face. Foundation. Soft shadow at the corners of her eyes. The careful drawing of a line along her lash. She had never experienced this. Another person's unhurried. Complete attention given entirely to her face, her features, her appearance. It felt strange in a way she couldn't quite explain. Not unpleasant, just new, like stepping into a room of a house you've lived in for decades and discovering it had a window you'd never noticed. When the young woman held up the small mirror, Tien looked for a long moment. "I look different," she said quietly. "Good different?" Tien turned her face slowly, taking herself in. "When I was young, we didn't have anything like this." Not quite an answer, but an honest one. Because what she meant was, I never thought I'd have this. Even now, in the studio, the photographer was patient and warm, guiding them through poses with easy instructions and gentle encouragement. Jack stood beside her in his own Aodai, and Tien had to admit, he looked genuinely handsome. She wasn't expecting that. She was used to seeing him in his everyday clothes, his work shirts, the comfortable ordinariness of shared daily life. Seeing him like this, standing straight in traditional dress, it was like seeing a familiar thing in a new light. Look at each other. Now smile. A real one. Tien laughed. A real one came naturally, because the whole situation was so far outside her ordinary life that it had crossed into something simply delightful. Jack smiled too, the smile she knew best, the one that didn't come easily, but when it did, was completely genuine. "Are you tired?" he asked quietly between frames. "No." "You?" "No." They moved from pose to pose, frame to frame. Two people who had never done anything like this before, giving themselves full permission to be beginners, to be a little awkward and a little stiff, and to laugh when the photographer said, "Send a heart" with your hands, and neither of them quite knew what that meant at first. It was one of the nicest afternoons Tien could remember in a long time. Afterward, they found a small cafe nearby, rustic decor, sticky rice cakes on the counter. Red New Year's banners still strung along the walls. The rain had thinned to almost nothing. They sat across from each other with 2 glasses of fresh orange juice and the particular, comfortable quiet of 2 people who don't need to fill every silence. "Did you plan this a long time ago?" Tien asked. "I wanted to do it during Tet." Jack said, "But it was too busy, so I booked it early." She was quiet for a moment. I didn't know you thought about things like this." "I think about a lot of things," he said. "I'm just slow to act on them." She looked out the cafe window at the wet street, the trees still glistening. A child on a bicycle, navigating the puddles with great seriousness. She thought about all the years of early mornings, all the meals cooked and cleared, all the seasons she had watched come and go from the garden, telling herself quietly, "This is enough. This life is enough," and believing it, mostly, except for that small, quiet place inside herself that she had stopped visiting, because visiting it felt like wanting too much. Today, someone had visited it for her, had looked at that small, overlooked place and said, without a single word, "You are worth an afternoon. You are worth a red dress and soft lights and a photograph on the wall. Thank you," she said, just 2 words. But she said them the way you say something you have been holding carefully for a while and are finally ready to set down. Jack nodded, pushed her glass a little closer. "Drink up, then we'll head home," Utter on the drive back. The fields opened wide on either side of the road, flat and dark green in the evening light, still wet from the day's rain. Smoke was rising from somewhere down the lane. The sky had gone the soft, pale gray of early evening, the kind that makes everything look a little more beautiful than it is. "Where will you hang the picture?" Tien asked. "The first thing you see when you walk in," he said, no hesitation. She nodded once, turned back to the window. And let that be enough. Because it was. It was more than enough. It was the whole quiet point of the afternoon, said in one sentence, without any fuss at all. Some men love you loudly. Some men love you like this, with a booking made weeks in advance. A red dress chosen without being asked. And a photograph hung where you'll see yourself every single morning when you walk through the door. Both kinds are real, but only one of them surprises you, after all these years, into feeling seen. For every woman who has spent a lifetime caring for everyone else, sometimes someone remembers to care for you. And one afternoon like that is enough to warm an entire season. See you in the next episode.